Hey, what is up, guys? Welcome to my new channel. My name is SportsFan1. Well, that's not my actual name, but that's going to be the name I'm going to be using for my videos. SportsFan1 or 11. SportsFan1 apparently was taken, so I added an extra one, but I'm SportsFan1. And for my first video of the channel, I'm going to give my NFL predictions just based on, the off season and how their schedule is. And now this isn't, how like I think for sure this team's going to go this bad, or I'm for sure this team's going to be this good. This is just how I feel like the season will go. Now, there's obviously up and downs throughout the season. Injuries could happen. There could be a surprise team, good or bad. So for example, in one of my teams, I'm not gonna say who, but there is one team that I think is gonna go 1-16 this year. Now, that I'm not saying they're gonna be that horrible. I just think that they're one of the worst, if not the worst team in the league, and they're not gonna win a lot of games. So don't just say, "Oh my God, he's predicting them to go 1-16." I'm just saying that could happen. I'm not saying it's going to. It's the NFL. Any team can win on any given Sunday. So just don't flame me for my predictions for the record. The record really isn't as important as how I think their season's going to go. So, and I'll explain, why in a minute. But we're starting off here with the AFC West. Here's how I think the division's going to go. Okay, I forgot a game for the Broncos. 1 second. What game did I forget? Oh, the first game. I'll go with the Broncos week 1. So there's a little insight. But again, it's not really... Alright, please tell me I didn't lose all the game, all the team... Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Okay. Oh, why, what a wonderful day. Anyway, here's how I think the division's going to go for the AFC West. Obviously, I think the Chiefs are going to win it. They're the best team in the league, if not one of the best. Some can say the Eagles, although the Chiefs beat the Eagles in the Super Bowl. So I'm gonna go with the Chiefs, and 14-3 or 13-4 is right where I think they're gonna be, because they were like that the past few years. And I think the lowest amount of wins they'll get this year is 12. I don't see them losing more than 5, but even that I think is a stretch. They're the Chiefs, and unless Patrick Mahomes dies, I don't see them losing a lot of games this year. I just don't. So I see them winning the division pretty easily, and obviously probably locking up that number 1 seed, or close to it. Second, I have the Chargers. I think they're the second best team in the division, and I think they will make the playoffs again at 11-6. Justin Herbert is a really good quarterback. He continues to improve. They got a really good offense. They got a lot of pieces on that team. Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler. They just added Quentin Johnston from TCU, who I think is going to just fit right in. They got a couple good tight ends and a decent O-line. And that defense also is, it's also pretty good as well. You got some pieces out there like Joey Bosa, for example. I think Khalil Mack is still on that team. I think Asante Samuel Jr. is on that team, if I'm not mistaken. I could be. And Derwin James, one of the best safeties in the league. So they got pieces on the defensive side as well. I may have missed a few, but I can see them going, between 10-7 to 12-5. The Broncos, I think, will be improved this year. Getting Sean Payton, who actually knows how to do coaching, who knows how to head coach. I think the Broncos are going to look like a better team this year. But I don't see them making the playoffs this year just because of the AFC is just so difficult. I just don't think they have the pieces right now to compete. I think their defense is going to be solid. I think their offense is going to look better, but I just don't see the Broncos making the playoffs out of the West. I think only 2 teams are going to come out of the West. So, could I see it happening? Maybe, if Russell Wilson gets back to playing like he did in Seattle. But I think they'll be improved, but I think they're still a year out from being a playoff team. But I think they will be improved. Same thing with the Raiders. They got Jimmy Garoppolo, who I think is a better quarterback than Derek Carr. Not by much, but I think that team's also going to look better. But I also don't think they're going to make the playoffs either. I have also going 8-9. Could I see them going 9-8, just like the Broncos? Yeah. But again, I only see two teams coming out of the West, and I just don't see the Raiders also doing enough to make the playoffs. So that's how I think the AFC West is going to go. So now let's get to another division. Let's see, I just did the West. Let's do the AFC South. Who's in the AFC South? Colts, Jags, Texans, and Titans. So let's get away from the Raiders, Chiefs, Chargers, and Broncos. This is how I see the AFC South going to go. Jaguars, in my opinion, are the best team in that division. They're the only team that made the playoffs last year, and I think they're only going to continue to get better. So I see them winning the division and making the playoffs at 10-7. I think they're going to go anywhere between 10-7 to 11-6, maybe 12-5. But I also think they're not, they're still improving. They're still young. They're still developing. I think they still need a couple more pieces to be that, dangerous team in the AFC. I think this is going to be a lot like last year, where they're going to make the playoffs. They may win a game in the playoffs, give you a hard fight. But at the end of the day, I just don't think they have enough to make a deep run yet. But I think it's coming. I really do. Doug Peterson's also a good coach. Trevor Lawrence looks like he's coming into his own as an NFL quarterback. And they're getting pieces, but they don't really have a true number one. I guess you could say Calvin Ridley or Christian Kirk, but you don't really have a true number one. You don't have that primetime Calvin Johnson or primetime Julio. And I'm not saying go find one, but I'm just saying I just don't think they're there yet. They're getting there, but I think they're still a year or two out. But for what the AFC South is, being a weaker division, I think that the Jaguars will win it pretty easily. Why am I always forgetting to do one for the Titans? What is going on? I'm so confused. Panthers, Titans. I can see Titans winning that one. Okay. Anyway. I don't know how I literally just went through all this, and for some reason I don't understand. I really don't. I double checked before I started this video, and all of them had the correct amount of games. This site sometimes is very dumb. But anyway, here's again how I think it's gonna go. Titans, I think, are the second best in the division. Hopefully I didn't miss another game from any other team. If I did, oh well. But the Titans, they're going to be like last year. They did get DeAndre Hopkins, and if they can get the DeAndre Hopkins that played in Houston, they have the new number one for at least a couple of years. I know he's 30, but he is still DeAndre Hopkins. You can still get a few years out of him, at least 3 or 4. And then you also have Treylon Burks, who's a talented young receiver. Obviously, you have the best running back in football in Derrick Henry, if not one of the best. Offensive line is kind of shaky. And then you also got Ryan Tannehill, who I don't trust. I just don't trust Ryan Tannehill. And it's proven. He gets you to the playoffs, then he crumbles. And I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year. I think they're going to be a tough team to beat, in a sense where they'll give you a tough game. They're not going to be an easy out, but I think that they'd have too many holes on that team right now. I think the offensive line is not going to be, the greatest. I think their defense has a few holes in it. And I think it's going to show. And then the Colts and the Texans, they got 2 rookie quarterbacks to start this year. C.J. Stroud for the Texans and Anthony Richardson for the Colts. Now, could I see them being better than what the record I said them to be? 2-15 and 4-13. Yes, I could see them being a lot, not a lot better, but I can see them being better, having a better record. It's just, it's like the same old story. There's a lot of holes on each of these teams. The Texans were one of the worst, if not the worst team in football for a reason last year. They're not going to go from worst to first. It's really tough to do that. Yeah, they got their franchise quarterback, and yeah, they got a really good defensive player in Will Anderson Jr. But again, they were the worst team in the league for a reason. So I still think they got a ton of holes to fill. I think that their head coach, DeMarco Ryan, I think his name is, I think he's going to have that team be a lot better. I think they're going to be competitive, but I also don't see them win a lot of games. I think they're a couple years out as well. Um, they just got to fill some holes, and they're going to be facing a lot of tough opponents where I just don't see them winning. Um, Same thing with the Colts. Now, can I see the Texans and Colts winning 5 or 6 games this year? I could. Yeah, definitely. Um, but I think that is their highest ceiling going into this year, at the very least, is 6 wins from each team. I don't see either of them going past that, but we'll see. We could say all we want about how each team's going to do this year, and I could be flat wrong about every pick, and the smartest analyst out there who everybody trusts and say, oh yeah, that's a really good prediction, and it just can all go to hell when the season starts. You really don't know until the games are played. But that is how I think the AFC South is going to turn out. Again, it's not really by record base. It's how I think each team is going to be as a whole and where I think they're going to be in their division. All right, going to the AFC North, which is the Browns, Bengals, Ravens, and Steelers. This is, I believe, going to be the best division in football this year. I don't think there's going to be another division. No, I think this is the best division in football. I have the Bengals going 14-3. I actually think that if one of their 3 losses could turn into a win, obviously it's 15-2, they'll get the first seed, but I think the Bengals have a really good shot this year of making the first seed, and I'll tell you why. Let's look at their schedule. Look at the schedule. They kick off against the Browns. It's going to be a tough game, but I'm banking on the fact that Joe Burrow is going to start week 1. There's not they haven't got a report saying that he is going to be in for week 1 or he's out for week 1, but there was a video of him about a week ago, I think it was, maybe it was sooner than that he was making, running, he was throwing, he looked good. And they said it wasn't serious and had to begin in a training camp. So I'm banking on the fact that he starts week 1. But you really look at the schedule. I think they're going to start off with 2 divisional opponents. Now the the Browns and Ravens are going to be tough outs. The Ravens got a heavily improved offense. They got some receivers now for Lamar. And now they're going to get a full year of Deshaun Watson if you're the Browns. But Joe Burrow is not scared of the pressure. He's not scared of, the big time games. He's proven he can win those. And I think he's going to win those. And then they go out and play, not going to LA, but they play the Rams. Yeah, they're going to get Stafford and Cooper Kupp back. But the thing that scares me about the Rams, and I'll talk about it when we get to that division, is their defense. They got Aaron Donald. That's it. They really have no one else. And I just don't know how that defense is going to be. I think their defense is going to be the worst it's been in years. I think they'll be able to score the ball, obviously with Cooper Kupp and Stafford if they stay healthy, but I think they're also going to give up a lot of points. And the Bengals have a really good offense. They really, really do. And so I see that being an easier win for the Bengals. Same thing with the Titans and Cardinals. Cardinals are going to be one of the worst teams in the league as well, I think. Yeah, they got a new head coach. Yeah, they got Kyler Murray, but who do they got at receiver? Hollywood Brown? Ronald Moore, I think his name is. Zach Ertz. Again, I don't see the Cardinals beating anything. Then they play the Seahawks. That might be a tougher game because, Geno Smith and that offense was pretty good last year, and I think it's going to be around the same this year. But Bengals are home. I think they'll take care of business. They're one of the few losses I can see them taking is against the 49ers, just because the 49ers have one of the best, if not the best, defense in the league. And their offense is also pretty damn good as well. I think that game is going to come down to the wire. Any team's going to have a chance. I think whoever has the ball last night, the game's going to win it. But then they play the Bills, and I think they're going to beat the Bills. I think the Chiefs are the best team in the AFC, and Joe Burrow has been able to beat Patrick Mahomes basically every time. And I think he'll do pretty much the same thing with at least the Bills this year in regular season. Again, it's going to be another game where it's going to come down to the wire. But I think the Bengals have that. But then they face the Texans. And then the Ravens again. I think the Ravens will beat them at home. I don't see the Ravens getting swept by the Bengals. Then they face the Steelers. Again, I see that being also a split just because it's Mike Tomlin and the Steelers. He's going to have that team ready to go. Then they face the Jaguars. It's going to be another tough out, but I can see them beating the Jaguars. Then they play the Colts and Vikings. Colts, again, they're going to be one of the worst teams. They're going to be improved, but not that great of a team. As they're still, again, they have a lot of holes to fill. The Bengals are going to be a Super Bowl contender. I think they'll take care of business at home against the Colts and against the Vikings. Yeah, the Vikings have Justin Jefferson and Kirk Cousins and yada, yada, yada. It's like the Rams situation. The Vikings have a bad defense. They've had a bad defense last year and year before, and they've done nothing to improve them. And actually, I think they've gotten worse this year on defensively. And I think that's going to be their downfall. And then they play the Steelers again. Obviously, I think the Steelers will win at home. Then they go to the Arrowhead to face the Chiefs. I'm picking the Bengals because Joe Burrow has proven that he can beat Patrick Mahomes in Arrowhead. Could I see the Chiefs winning? Yeah, probably. I can see that happening. But again, the track record between Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow is not good for Patrick. It's basically like, Tom Brady, Eli Manning. Eli Manning was Tom Brady's kryptonite. Every time they faced him in the Super Bowl, they lost 2 times. And then if they come home to play the Browns again, I think they'll sweep the Browns. But 14-3, but could I see them beating the 49ers? I could. Could I see them beating the Ravens again? Yeah. Could I see them beating the Steelers twice? I could. I don't think it's going to happen, but I could see it. But looking at the schedule, that is a pretty easy schedule if you're a Bengals fan. And I think that if Joe Burrow is healthy enough to start the season and he stays healthy, and I can see the Bengals getting the number 1 seed, at least trying to get it. All right. But back to the division. All right. Ravens also. I think they're going to be improved. They got Odell. They got a young rookie who's talented. Obviously, we know how the Ravens were even without weapons. But now they got weapons now, along with Mark Andrews. Their defense is always solid under John Harbaugh. I think they're going to win a few games this year. I think they're going to go 12-5, obviously make the playoffs. And I think they're going to be a team that you can't take lightly. Steelers, I think they're also going to go 11-6. I think they're improved off of last year, and last year they went 9-8. And they're improved this year, and Mike Tomlin is one of the better coaches in the league. Is going to go down as one of the better coaches in history just because of what he's been able to do. He's been able to take teams. He hasn't had a losing record since he's taken over of the Steelers. That is impressive considering how long he's been the head coach there. And he's had teams where you really didn't think they're going to have a winning record. Like last year, for example. No one thought that the Steelers were going to have a winning record. But no one was surprised that Mike Tomlin was able to get a winning record out of them just because how good of a coach he is. And I think they're going to be improved. So I can see him going 11-6 and making the playoffs. I think 3 teams are going to come out of the North in the AFC. I really do. Just because of how good each team is. And the worst team is the Browns, I think. Going 8-9. But I can totally see them going 9-8. Maybe even 10-7. You're going to get a full year of Deshaun Watson. Now, I understand the off-the-field shenanigans that he may or may not have done. But strictly for football, when Deshaun Watson is healthy and he's playing good, obviously you can say that about a lot of quarterbacks if they're playing good, but we all know how good Deshaun Watson can be. He took the Texans to the playoffs a few times. And the Browns have a pretty good defense. They have a pretty good defense. If they can get a good year out of Deshaun Watson and Nick Chubb, I could totally see them winning 9 or 10 games. It's going to be funny because if they win 10 games and the rest of them have the way they may not make the playoffs. But again, this division is going to be a tough out. I don't think either team is an easy out. And that's why I think they're going to be the best division in football. All right. The last AFC division is the AFC East. And you guys are going to probably going to laugh at my predictions here. We got the Bills, Dolphins, Jets, and Patriots. I have the Bills winning the division narrowly versus the Jets. The problem with the Jets because we all know how good the Bills are. So 12-5, it's not a big surprise. It's not a big deal. Say, oh my God, he's predicting them to go 12-5 or 13-3 or whatever. They're the Bills. Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis. Their defense is pretty solid. They're going to be a good team. And I think they're going to narrowly squeak out the division. But looking at the Jets, the problem with the Jets last year, they had a top 5 defense. But what did they have on the flip side for offensively? One of the worst scoring, if not the worst scoring offense in the league. And a large part of it was because of the quarterback play. They really didn't have a quarterback. Zach Wilson looked awful. Mike White gave you a couple of good games. But at the end of the day, you can't be just switching quarterbacks every week and expect to win or expect consistency. And they have good pieces on that offensive side. They have, I can't remember if he won Rookie of the Year last year or if it was in the running, but Garrett Wilson, a really talented second-year wide receiver. Breece Hall is going to come back. That second-year running back who, if he didn't get hurt, he also was going to be in the running for Rookie of the Year. Offensive line is pretty solid. But now they have a quarterback. I know that everyone's going to say, oh, Aaron Rodgers is washed because of how he did last year. Yeah, I can admit Aaron Rodgers did look washed last year. But if you look at it, Aaron Rodgers didn't really have a lot of weapons. His main weapon turned out to be a rookie receiver in Christian Watson. But that was it. He really didn't have anybody else. Yeah, Romeo Doubs gave you a few good games. He had Robert Tonyan, Aaron Jones. But I think the skill players offensively for the Jets are better than the skill players of the Packers. And I think Aaron Rodgers is going to come back with a vengeance. I think he's going to show everybody that he is still a top quarterback in this league. He's going to have a bounce back year, I think, this year. And if that defense can stay good this year, which I believe it will be, and that offense can score the ball, which I think it will be with Aaron Rodgers, 12-5 is not out of the question. Because if you look at their team last year, they were in a lot of close games, but what they couldn't do was score the ball. That's why they lost a lot of games last year, is because they couldn't score the ball. They couldn't get the clutch touchdown or get in the field goal range. I mean, prime example of it was that one Patriots game where it was like a punt-a-thon. Their defense was playing their ass off. Now, obviously, I know that Bill Belichick is going to have a good defense. He's going to have one every year. But all you needed was one touchdown, I believe, and you would have won the game. And you couldn't do that. Another one was that last game of the year between the Jets and Dolphins. Again, it was like 6-6 for a while. If you scored one touchdown, you possibly could have won that game. But they just couldn't do it. They really couldn't do it. But I think this year with Aaron Rodgers, I think they're going to be able to do it. So I think the Bills are going to win it just because I think they're going to have a better percentage. But I would not be surprised if the Jets, come Week 18, have a chance to win the division. I really don't. So I think they're the second best team in that division. I think the Dolphins, they got Jalen Ramsey. Now, I know he's going to be hurt for part of the season, which is going to hurt them. But they still have Xavier Howard. They're going to have Tua back. But the only problem I have with that team is with Tua. Last year, the Dolphins looked like one of the best teams in the league with Tua Tagovailoa at quarterback. Then he got hurt. Got a concussion. Had that whole concussion scandal. Comes back the following week, gets concussion again, and he's out for the rest of the year. How healthy is he going to be this year? Can he stay healthy? I don't know. I can't give you an answer. So going 9-8 or 10-7, I think it's a real possibility. Could they be better than that? If they stay healthy, possibly. But I think the Jets are a little bit better, and obviously the Bills are better. So I think they're going to have a winning record or be around 500, but I think they're going to narrowly miss the playoffs. And then I think the Patriots are going to take a step back this year. Only because I think their defense is going to be solid. It always is under Bill Belichick, but I don't trust their offense. I don't trust their offense. Yeah, I know they got Zeke, but I don't think he's their savior. I also don't trust the quarterbacks. I don't trust Mac Jones. I know in his rookie season he brought them to the playoffs. But last year, he didn't. I know, all the sophomore slump or whatever. I get that. But Mac Jones didn't even show, in my opinion, didn't show a lick of what he did the year before. And they brought in Bailey Zappi for a few games. He did decently. But I look at their offense, and I can't name one wide receiver on that team right now. I can't. I just don't trust their offense. I think they're going to be kind of like what the Jets were last year. They're going to have a solid defense, but they're not going to be able to score the ball. I think there is going to be a few games where they're going to put up like 30 points. But consistently, I don't see that happening. And I think that's going to be their downfall this year is their offense. So going 5-12, I can see that being a real possibility. Could I see them being a little bit better than that? It's Bill Belichick. He knows how to coach. He knows how to win games. They're going to be a team where it's going to be a tough out again. Where you have to bring pretty much at least your B game to beat them. Like you won't be able to just roll over them. They're going to give you a tough game, but I just don't see them win a lot of games just because of their offense. And that wraps up the AFC. Going into the NFC. Let's start off with, let's go with the NFC East. Alright, that is just the AFC, so let's get to the NFC. Alright, let's start off with Cowboys, Commanders, Eagles, and Giants, yeah. Excuse my notifications. I'm doing this on my phone. All right. Eagles going 15-2. That is a better record than both the Bengals and Chiefs. The only reason why I have them going as a better record is just because they're in the NFC. They're going to be facing more of the NFC opponents, which the NFC is a lot less hard than the AFC. AFC is a lot tougher. There's going to be a lot more tougher opponents that the Chiefs and Bengals are going to have to face. That doesn't mean I think the Eagles are better than the Bengals or the Chiefs. Record isn't everything. Case in point, the Vikings last year. They won 13 games, I believe, last year. Lost in the first round to a 9-win team. At home. So record really isn't everything. It's how you perform. But the Eagles are one of the better teams in the league as well. I mean, they made it to the Super Bowl last year, and they're going to be riding on the same thing this year, I believe. Cowboys. People are going to give me shit for this, I believe. I can really see this happening. Cowboys going 11-6. I hate it as well. I don't like the Cowboys. I'm a Lions fan. And it may show when I get to the NFC North. But I don't like the Cowboys. I despise them. I don't think they're going to be that great of a team this year, but I can see them winning 11 games this year, being around 9-8, 10 or 11-6 between that record. Yeah, I just have a lot of pieces on that team. I mean, Dak Prescott, if he's healthy, he's a decent quarterback. He's above average. Tony Pollard is a good fit for that offense. You know, they got CeeDee Lamb, Dalton Schultz, I think, is still on that team. Yeah, I could be wrong. Maybe he left. The offensive line is always good. The Cowboys are always going to have a good offensive line. Defensively, they got Micah Parsons, Trayvon Diggs, Dexter Lawrence. Not Dexter. That's Giants. DeMarcus Lawrence. But yeah, I can see this team taking a step up this year with a new play caller. Don't see them going above 11 wins though. And you got the Giants. I know the records are a lot different, 10-6, 9-8, but I think the Giants and Cowboys are going to be around a similar position. Giants were a surprise team last year. They overperformed, people say. I don't think so. I think that's a credit to Brian Daboll. I think that team is going to be a little bit improved this year. I think they're going to take more of a little step up. Could I see them going 11-6 as well? Could I see the Cowboys flip? Could I see this record flipping? I could. I really could. I think 3 teams are going to come out of the East for the playoffs. Because I see only 1, maybe 2 coming. Well, 1's coming out of the North. 2 is coming from the West. And 1's coming from the South. But I can see 3 coming from the East. Then you got the Commanders. There's that 1-16 I was talking about. Could I see them winning a few more games? I could, yes. I could see them going up even to 5. But we don't know what we're going to get from Sam Howell. The defense is going to be good. They're going to be solid. They have 2 good pieces on that team not to be a decent defense at the very least. But is that offense? How is Sam Howell going to do? They brought in Carson Wentz. They brought in Nick Foles, I believe, at one point. But none of it worked. None of it worked. I mean, Taylor Heineke didn't work, and he's even off the team now. So how's Sam Howell going to be? Second-year quarterback who was not drafted high, low expectations. How is he going to be? How are the Commanders going to be this year? There's a lot of unknowns about this team. 1-6, I think, is a bit of a stretch. I do. Again, I can see them winning a few more games. But I think they're going to be one of the worst teams in the league. They're going to be picking in the top 5 in next year's draft. Along with the Cardinals, Texans, Colts. But that's how I think the NFC East is going to chip out. All right, let's go to the NFC North, where my division is. Excuse me. Lions going 13-4. I'm a Lions fan. A little biased here, but let me tell you why. What was the main problem last year for the Lions? Give you a few seconds to think about that. Defense. Their offense all year was a top 5 offense. They were able to score the ball. But they were allowing pretty much the same amount of points on defense. You're not going to win a lot of ball games when you're allowed the same amount of points your top 5 offense scores. Now, I know they improved throughout the year. But at the end of the day, a lot of their losses came because the defense couldn't stop them. I'll give you a lot of examples. Week 1, for example. Now, I know that the Eagles went up big and the Lions had to come back. But the Lions had an opportunity, down 3, against the Eagles, to stop them on a 3rd and 8, I believe it was, just before the 2-minute warning. I think they only had like 1 timeout. So they had to make a stop. Well, they allowed the first down, and that basically cost them the game. That was very, very week 1. Week 2, Lions did end up winning that game, but they went up 22-0 early. And then the second half allowed a comeback from Carson Wentz. Nearly did them in, but we ended up winning that game. Then you go to the Seahawks game. I don't know if that's the next game, but go to the Seahawks game. We lost 48-45. We did not make Seattle punt one time in that game. Now, I guess you could say, well, if Jared Goff didn't throw a pick six at the second half, take that away, you would have won the game. I can see that. I get that. But you can't really look at it that way. Your defense, okay, you take off that touchdown, that pick six. All right, that 45 then becomes 38. Your defense still allowed 38 points. You're not going to win a lot of ball games when you allow 38 points. If we made them punt one time, we would have won the game. Then they go to that first game against the Vikings in Minnesota. Lions were up not once, but twice by 2 scores. They were even up by 2 scores, I believe, like 5 minutes ago, and they still lost. You called a timeout, and you still allowed a big-ass play. Because there was miscommunication. Should I go on? If we had a better defense, we would have beaten the Vikings. We would have held on. We probably would have beaten the Seahawks. That's 2 more wins. So that 9-8 record last year, all of a sudden turns into 11-6. Again, that's a lot of what ifs. But over this offseason, we overhauled our defense. Now, I know we didn't bring in a lot of big-name players, but we brought in players that should improve this team, like Emmanuel Mosley on this cornerback side, along with Courtland Sutton, 2 very talented cornerbacks. Now, I know they're not big-name corners, but they're solid corners who can play their position well. We also brought in Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, a young upcoming safety who can also play corner if he needs to. And then in the draft, we drafted Jack Campbell, who in the preseason so far this year has looked like a pretty damn good linebacker. He can play on the ball and off the ball. We also drafted probably the best safety in the class in the second round in Brian Branch. He's also shown flashes this preseason. We said he can come up and make a tackle. He's a Swiss Army knife. He can play anywhere. He can play safety. He can play corner. He can play maybe even linebacker in the box. Then you have, other pieces like Aiden Hutchinson, who had a really good rookie season. James Houston, who broke out a few games. Alex Anzalone, who was always solid as a linebacker. Malcolm Rodriguez. Tracy Walker's going to come back. We have Kirby Joseph. Now, I know these are not big-name players. But I truly believe that this Lions defense, I know I'm a Lions fan, I have a little bit of bias, but I think this Lions defense is going to take a huge step forward this year. I believe they're going to go from one of the worst to one of the better defenses in this league. I think they're going to have a top 10 defense in this league. And if their offense can continue to play like they did last year, be a top 5, even a top 7, I can see this team being one of the better teams in the NFC. So 13-4, I think it's a bit of a stretch. I think it's a bit of a, wishful thinking, but 11-6 is not out of the question, I don't think, for the Tigers. I mean, not Tigers, Lions, wrong cat. I just think 13-4 is their ceiling. Then you go down to the Vikings. I think they're going to be a winning division. Winning record. I think they will find a way to win games with Justin Jefferson and Kirk Cousins. Just again, that defense, like I said earlier, scares me. Could I see the Vikings squeaking out a playoff spot in the North? I could. I really could. But again, I don't see them being that. You look at it this way. The Lions the past 2 years have really done well against our division. That's another reason why I'm picking them to do this. Because even last year, we should have beaten the Vikings twice. We really should have. If it wasn't, again, for our defense. That was the only loss we had in our division. Because we swept the Bears, we swept the Packers. The past year, same thing in Minneapolis. A heartbreaker. We lost to a game-losing field goal. Back-to-back weeks, for that matter. So, I think the Lions are going to continue to do well in our division. And, but But I would not be surprised if the Vikings win a few games and get to 9-8 or 10-7 and be a chance for a playoff spot as well. The Bears will be improved this year. I think they're going to be improved. But I just think they're still a few years away. So 5-12 is a record where I can see them being. Honestly, I can see the Bears being a lot like the first year under Dan Campbell Lions, where the Lions went 3-13-1, but I can see the Bears being like that, where you not necessarily look at the record, you look at how they play. The Lions, the only games where we really got blown out in that first year was against the Eagles and against the Bengals. The rest of those games, we were in those games. We gave you a hard fight for 60 minutes. We were a tough out. It came down to the wire. I think that's going to be the Bears this year. We're going to see a lot of games where the Bears are going to be in it, come down the stretch. They may not be able to win it because I think they're going to be like the Lions, where they're still learning how to win, learning how to finish games. But they're going to be in a lot of them. But I just don't see them winning a lot. And also, for the Packers, I have them going 4-13. Could I see them being a lot better than that? Possibly. I could see them going up to even 8 wins. But again, there's a lot of unknowns about this team as well. How is Jordan Love going to play in his first season in the NFL? I know he's been in the league for a while, but he's basically been on the bench his whole career. I mean, he's played in a few games. And he actually looked good in those few games he's played. But for the most part, he's been riding that bench for like 4 years. So this is his basically first season. So how is he going to do? How is he going to do? We don't know. He could play great. He could play poor. So I'm banking on the fact they're not going to be that great. But even if they are a decent team, even if Jordan Love plays good, I still don't think they're going to be anywhere close to 10-7. Like I said, I think the highest they're going to win is 8 games. Now, their defense is going to be solid. They have pieces on that team. But that is how I think the NFC North is going to go. All right, going down to the NFC South. The greatest division in football. Oh, boy, oh, boy. Am I missing a team? See, the Buccaneers, Panthers. Oh, Falcons. Duh. All right. This is how I can see the NFC South going. NFC South, I believe, is going to be a lot like last year, where I don't look at the records, but I think like midway through the season, every team's going to have a chance for that division. That's how bad that division is going to be. I think they're going to be a lot like last year. Now, a few of the teams did improve, but come on. I think the Saints are the best team in that division. That's why I have them going 9-8, winning the division. I know I said I don't trust Derek Carr, but I think that the Saints I think they're the more complete team in that division. I think they have the better defense out of all 4 teams. And if Chris Olave and Michael Thomas, I think, is going to come back, if they can stay healthy, and once Alvin Kamara comes back, I think that Derek Carr will give you stability at the quarterback position, something that they really didn't have. They started out with Jameis Winston. He looked decent. He looked good. But then he got hurt. Then he brought in Andy Dalton, who sucked. So I think Derek Carr will give you stability because he is a durable quarterback. He doesn't get hurt a lot. So I think that the Saints are the more complete team, and I think they're going to win the division 9-8. The Falcons, I believe, are the second best. They're in a close race between them and the Panthers. And that's why I have the Panthers and Falcons have a similar record. Either team could go around the same record. We're going to see second year Desmond Ridder, see how he could take a step up. They also have pieces on that team like Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, the rookie out of Texas. Their defense is pretty solid. They got AJ Terrell on that team, and they signed Jesse Bates, one of the better safeties in the league. So I could see the Falcons giving the the Saints for run their money for the division. Same thing with the Panthers. Yeah, they got Bryce Young, first overall pick. They got a really good running game. I think that's going to continue. Their defense is decent. So I could see either of those three teams winning that division. See, it's going to come down to who sucks less. Then you got the Buccaneers, who I don't think they're going to be that great. But could they be good? Yeah, they could. You can say that for every team. But I look at it this way. If the Buccaneers defense can get back the way they were playing 2 years ago when they went to the Super Bowl, or one, I think it was 2 years ago, if not 3 years ago. Because last year their defense really took a step back, which is very surprising because they didn't really lose a lot of pieces on that team. But if they can get back to playing like they did a few years ago, that could help, obviously. But then you look at the quarterback situation between Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask. Now, I believe they're going to go with Baker Mayfield just because he has experience as a starter, and he's had some success as a starter. Like, he brought the Browns to their first playoff win in a long time and gave the Chiefs in Arrowhead for a run for their money. But ever since then, Baker Mayfield hasn't looked the same. Now, if Baker Mayfield can get back to playing like it did in 2020, and their defense could step up, that 4-13 could turn into 9-8 possibly. Because they have some pieces on that team. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, I think it's just Mike Evans. Leonard Fournette. So they have pieces. They do. But it's all going to determine on how Baker Mayfield plays and if that defense can take a step up. And overall, I just don't see that happening. I really don't. So, we'll see. But I believe the NFC South is going to be the worst division of football. And I think this is how it's going to be. But again, really, whoever wins this division, and I think all four teams are going to have a shot at it midway through the season. Whoever wins it is not going to go far into playoffs, I don't think. So, all right. And the final division, the NFC West. We started with the AFC West, and we're going to finish with the NFC West. 49ers, Cardinals, Rams, and Seahawks. I believe in the NFC, the first seed is going to come down to the 49ers and the Eagles. And the 49ers and the Eagles face off against each other midway through the season. Whoever wins that game, I believe, is going to get the number one seed. Because you look at the 49ers, they have the best defense in football, if not going to have one of the best. Their offense, now, it's looking like they're going to start Brock Purdy this year just because of what he did last year. And if Brock Purdy can play like he did last year and that defense holds up, they're going to be another tough team to beat, just like the Eagles. So I can totally see them going 15-2 as well, or 14-3. I just have the Eagles because they're playing at home, and I think they're going to beat the 49ers. But again, I feel like that game is going to go either way. It's going to come down to the wire, but I'm going to give it to the home team. If the 49ers were home, I was going to give it to the 49ers. I just think the home team is going to win that game. But at the end of the day, the 49ers are going to be also one of the better teams in the NFC, also in the football as well. Because they got so many pieces on that team, So yeah, they're going to win the NFC West pretty easily, and they're going to be in the running for that first seed. The Seahawks, I think, are going to be like they were last year. A really good team, but not a great team. Geno Smith was the comeback player of the year. He came out of nowhere, basically. So I think that they're going to continue to be a really good team. Only gotten better on defensively. And offensively, they're also going to be pretty good as well. So they are going to make the playoffs this year. I'll be shocked if they don't. 10 games to 11 games, I can see them winning. And they're going to be a tough team to beat. Not saying they're going to be, the team to beat, but they're going to be a tough team to beat. They're not going to be an easy out. But after that, you got the Rams and Cardinals, both at 3-14. The Rams, like I said, Getting Stafford and Cooper Kupp back is going to help. So I think they're going to be able to score the ball. But I think they're going to be a lot like last year's Lions, where in a sense they're going to have a pretty good offense, but their defense is not going to be that great. Because like I said, you got Aaron Donald. But after that, I can't think of whoever's on that team. I mean, maybe Leonard Floyd is still on that team. Lost Jalen Ramsey. So they really don't have a lot of star players on that defensive side. So I think their defense is going to take a big step back because Aaron Donald can't do it all by himself. So I think they're going to be a lot like last year's Lions, where in a sense they're going to have a really bad defense and their offenses will be able to score the ball as long as Stafford and Kupp can stay healthy. But I just don't see them winning a lot of games. So, which I think is going to be good for the Rams. So I think they're finally going to have a first-round pick this year. I could be wrong, though, because they haven't had a first-round pick since Jared Goff in 2016. But if they really want to rebuild this team, they're going to need good draft picks. So I don't think this is going to be that terrible of a thing for Rams if they go this bad. They're going to have a top 5 pick, have a chance to get a really good talented player in the draft class, which I think they should overhaul on defense. But I guess we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Then obviously the Cardinals. Last year they were a big disappointment, and I think they're going to be right around the same this year. Yeah, they got a new head coach, but again, they just have so many holes on that team as well. Where could I see the Rams and Cardinals winning 5, 6, maybe 7 games? I could. But at the end of the day, they're not going to be that great of a team. Either of them are, and that's how I think it's going to go. So that's how I think the NFL season is going to go. Again, don't really pay attention to the records. Just I think that the Rams, Cardinals, Texans, Colts, Bears, Packers. I think these are going to be they're going to be the bottom teams. Could I see them winning more? Yes, but they're not going to be that great of a team. The Lions, 13-4, like I said, bit of a stretch, but 11-6, maybe even 12-5, I don't think is out of the question. The Bengals going 14-3. I think that their schedule is easy enough to where as long as Joe Burrow is healthy, they're going to be. I think they have the easiest path to the number 1 seed. But again, you got to deal with the Chiefs, who are always going to be in the race for the number 1 seed. Let me know what you guys think down below. So, if you want to bash me, please try to be somewhat respectful. I want more positivity than negativity, but I'll take criticism. But this is just my opinion. I could be totally off. I could be right. Who knows? Again, like I said earlier, it doesn't matter what anybody says. Until the games are played, you really don't know. But I'm looking forward to the NFL season. I think this season is going to be a fun season to watch. As a Lions fan, I'm excited as well because I think the Lions are going to be a good team for the first time in a long time. But we'll see. I'm looking forward to the NFL season. I'm going to be starting my Madden franchise series soon as well. I'm going to start one. I know I said I'm a Lions fan, but I don't know if I'm going to do the Lions. I might pick a different team, and you'll know either today or tomorrow who I choose. But don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Like I said, it's my brand new channel. I want to try to grow it. So let me know in the comment section below what you guys think, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace out. Have a great day.